All right, you guys know what time it is. Let's talk about this video game. Is my camera shot okay? It's fine enough. I look like a mess. Let's see here. Rygar. I'm gonna move my light so I can see this stuff properly. We're here. Time for the good. It's time. Rygar. What's good about Rygar? I think I really like the world design because it's kind of like somewhat open. Like it's interesting. I don't know. It's not like super open. There's lots of invisible walls and stuff, but like it's all kind of interconnected in a way. So maybe like areas are fun to explore. Like I just think it's really entertaining to walk around that world. For that. I also really like the diversity between the disc armors. Variety and disc armor. I have some stuff to say about how that's rolled out to the player. Good variety and disc armor moveset or something like that. The music. Good soundtrack. I would not say anything about the soundtrack like really. Variety between movesets. The combat's ahead of its time. Can you? I always have a hard time with this on like text, but like, can you explain that a little more? I haven't played God of War, so like I don't know per se. Like I kind of probably think a little bit closer to like Devil May Cry kind of thing. And this is definitely a different type of game than Devil May Cry. So I don't think that's like a great comparison that I make in my mind. It probably feels a lot more grounded than a Devil May Cry. Because Devil May Cry is very much like a character action kind of game. That was 2001, so it's before this kind of thing. The personalization. Oh, like the customization of the weapons and stuff. I didn't really find that I noticed that much of a difference between those. I mean, it does seem like there's some stuff there, but it copied God of War's combat wholesale. I mean, that's interesting. I don't know if it makes sense to put on the good inspired God of War's combat or something. Like, is it really ahead of its? I guess what does it mean to be ahead of its time, right? It's like it got there before God of War did and everything, but like. I think it's just good on its own, right? Like, I don't know. And I think the game reviewed well when it came out, too. I think I would agree it's ahead of its time. I just don't know how I put that on the good for the game for that. Yeah, weapon customization. I'm a little mixed on the weapon customization. I'll put it on there as well. Or put it on there for now. But I might go against that. It was influential combat system. Huh. I agree with you. I agree with everything you're saying. I think I guess the kind of hang up I have is like, I don't know how I put that on the good list or something. Or how I would word that. Like, to me, it seems weird to be like, combat was ahead of its time, or something like that. Like, I think the combat's good, and I think we can talk about why the combat is good. But, like, saying that it went on to inspire things, I think is weird to, like, put in, like, a review like this, I think. But, yeah, I think it is a great combat system for considering the standards. Good variety. I think I have some complaints about the combat and how it feels. But I think like specifically what I think about with the combat is the variety between the movesets for sure. The halo of character action games. I want to put that in the words that I think praise the game itself and not sit there and talks about, you know, its place in history so much. I mean, I think that's valuable to talk about that, but in terms of like being an item on this list, I think it makes more sense to praise the actual like combat itself. So like what is good about the combat in this game? Like what came together with it? And to give you like a sneak peek into the bad part of it, what I think about with the bad part of combat in this game is that it does feel a bit clunky to use. Specifically with like turning in combat, there is a slow turn rate on Rygar, and I feel like that does a lot to hurt his individual, like his responsiveness in combat. I don't think that breaks the game or anything like that, and I think if you took that one thing away, I would definitely be a lot more positive on the combat, and there are good things about it. I think the variety between the moveset is a big thing. Like, every moveset feels neat. I think Rygar's moveset is like just fun to use in general. So maybe like a good, like fun, diverse movesets or something like that. Maybe like fun and diverse movesets. Like, because I think that's really what we're praising here. I don't really want to say inspired God of War as a good kind of thing, or you know, said this is influential as a good kind of thing. Because that makes sense what you're saying, and it's true. I don't personally know like how true that is. Like the connection you're making is legitimate in my opinion. But I just think it doesn't really fit on this particular list. But I think it's definitely worth mentioning for sure. Like in verbally. I'm a little uncertain about weapon customization though, because like there are the different orbs and stuff, but like it mostly was like your attack goes up, defense goes up, critical hit goes up. There's the guard canceling, but unfortunately I never figured out how that worked. Like I didn't feel like there's enough information in the game that kind of explained how some of those things were. So it'd say guard cancel. I'm like, okay. And like there's the moveset list, and like when I went to look at the moveset list, like a lot of the moves didn't really seem to work in the way I thought it was. Like I don't know, but do you feel good about like a fun and diverse moveset, or is there something about the combat, Mr. T? Weighty combat. Yeah. Weighty feel kind of thing. I'm not 100% sure I think that's a good part of the combat, but I agree with you that it definitely feels weighty, and I think that could be considered good. I think that starts getting into like the weird like line between like, you know, you kind of have like the divide between people who like the weighty combat in Dark Souls versus like people who don't, right? Does this game have a good weighty? And I think if we say weighty combat, that might be at odds with my feeling on like the game not feeling like responsive in certain scenarios. Like it does feel like a fast-paced game, and it feels like a game that should have a fast-paced combat system, and I think it gets most of the way there. I don't know if the weightiness ever provided a benefit, in my opinion. It probably frustrated me more than anything on my personal playthrough of it. Because there's a lot of times where I just felt like I couldn't really attack an enemy in the way I wanted to. Like you have the full combo, but you just have to like do a partial because it's just too scary to do a full combo most of the time. On like the bosses and stuff especially, so. I think the bosses are really fun. I think the game has really good bosses. We're gonna have to cut some of these here real quick, but I think good bosses is something that we can put on that list. Like, feel a little weird putting variety, because I think we already put variety somewhere, or I guess we put diverse moveset, but boss variety. Challenging and varied. Varied and challenging boss fights. It's too long, but you can do ampersand sign. And challenging boss fights. I think I want that on there. Bugs are gonna be a bad for me, Alex. unless we have like a major change on like the bug stuff. Like the bugs were the most boring enemy in the game. They were definitely just fodder. So and there's a lot of them, and in a way that I think is not very good. It just kind of like the beginning. In the bad we're gonna get into. I think there's pacing issues with this game for sure. Weighty combat or something like that. That is satisfying. Is that like you rewording the weighty combat, Mr. T, do you think? I would want to, if we put that in, I would want to merge that with the weighty combat in some way, I think. And I feel like we maybe can merge like diverse combat or moveset a bit. And if we do stone variety, I think that also could get, I think a lot of these could either get condensed down in some way, I'm thinking. They open, I would really want to word this area design thing a little better. What I like about it is like there's a lot of paths that kind of lead around in a way. It's kind of open in some ways, but it's also kind of locked down. What did I have in there before? Fun to explore. Maybe just fun to explore. That is the core of it. It is fun to explore. The areas, I think, have a lot of like neat, like kind of connective tissues between them in a very like kind of maybe Dark Souls kind of way, where like you have shortcuts that kind of connect in with different areas of the game. But I think the big thing is it's just fun to walk around and explore different areas in the game. So. Weighty combat makes the simple act of hitting enemies feel kinesthetically. I don't know if I can say that out loud. Kinesthetically? Like, I don't know if I even fully know what the definition of that word. I know what you're getting at with that. I just don't know like the exact definition of it. Really sad. Okay, so like body weight. So I would say that's definitely very similar to weighty combat. I think weighty combat sums that up. I just don't know if I don't know if I consider that a good thing with it. Puzzles are unique. Were there puzzles really? I don't remember there being like a lot of puzzles. I could be wrong. There's like some platforming challenges. It was mostly like walk around and just like press the button on the horse heads and they turn. And then defeat a room of monsters. I think probably more than anything, like navigating around the world and exploring it was probably more of what's happening there rather than puzzles. So I'm gonna exempt the puzzle thing, but I think I generally get what you mean. I think that fits under the kind of area design. Okay, so let me get soundtracks out of the way here so we can just kind of have it placed in a convenient place while we kind of condense these down. Because sorry, oh gosh. I'm gonna probably sneeze again. I'm gonna try to mute before that happens, but I'm currently doing some stuff with my hands. Do this. I'm just say diverse movesets. Boil that down. I always kind of hate putting the good and then good soundtrack. Strong soundtrack, maybe. Diverse moveset. Weapon customization. Alex, I'm gonna take off weapon customization. I understand what you're saying, but like I just don't really feel like it had a lot of impact, and I can't think of anything that would convince me otherwise. I can definitely like understand Mr. T's like weighty combat thing, but like the weapon customization, like it's there. It just doesn't like feel like a strong aspect of this game, really. Me personally. I'll if you're cool with it, we will leave weighty combat on. I'm a little worried about us having some differing opinions on that and having kind of a conflicting point there on the review. But I think like what you're saying value-wise is that like the actual weight of like hitting things with the disc and things like that, right? That I can see the appeal of that, and I would agree with you. I think the bigger challenge I have is the weighty movement of Rygar is not like a strong aspect of this game. It's more of weighty, and I guess maybe that's the combat. So maybe the problem is more of just like stiff movement, not so much combat. So, all right, I'm gonna go to the bad. Let me know if there's anything else on the good you guys want to do, but let's go ahead and move over there and start with the bad. All right. So yeah, stiff movement. I just think it's a little too hard to move around and aim at times, and like it's just not quite responsive in the way you want it to be at times. Pacing, the game starts off very slow, lack of variety in the first half. It's a very, very slow starting game. Not a lot of like diversity in enemy design, not a lot of diversity in bugs, yes. Not a lot of diversity in the player's moveset because you're kind of stuck with the one discus without a lot to do with it. You just kind of stick with the 1, 2, 3 combo over and over and over again for probably the first 2 or 3 worlds, which kind of sucks. And even when you get the heavy disc like isn't super valuable initially. It gets a lot better though, for sure. So I think that is a huge downside for me, is the lack of variety. Challenge is a little uneven for sure. I think they need to find a better middle ground between enemy encounters and boss encounters. The fodder enemies were way too easy. Bosses were very difficult in a way that I did enjoy, although it was kind of frustrating. There are some parts of the boss fights I don't like. Maybe that's something that we could put. Yeah. Maybe that's something I put as like, lots of invulnerability on bosses. I do not like that aspect of the game where there's just long periods of time where you cannot damage the boss whatsoever for no real strong reason usually. This doesn't really make a lot of sense why you can't, beyond just the game doesn't want you to do it at that time. Anything else? I think that is covering most of the stuff I had problems with this game. I think somebody mentioned something bad earlier. Was it you, Joshua? Music is pretty good. I think that kind of comes with stiff movement, Alex. It is like stiff, like I guess maybe I should elaborate with stiff movement like that. I would say that's stiff movement in terms of like turning before like attacking. That is not be able to really react much during combat. You're kind of locked to what you're doing, which could be viewed as a good thing depending on how you want to approach it. But there's also the platforming aspect of the game. I don't think the platforming feels particularly good. I don't think the disc grapple hook mechanics feel particularly good. Lack of enemy variety. I feel like it got better in the second half. So like I feel like that beginning part for sure kind of encompasses the enemy variety. Like I'm not super opposed to it being giant household insects or whatever. I am opposed to it being all like caterpillars and that's it from the first half of the game, or like the early on at least. That's what's the main focus. And they even later on they still are kind of a big thing, but I think it's less of a problem later for sure because they diversify or at least mix different types of enemy groups into them a little bit. So I think that kind of fits under the lack of variety in the first half. I'd say leveling up doesn't feel particularly satisfying, but I don't think it's like bad enough for me to put on this list, so. But yeah, I think that probably fits under the lack of variety in the first half. Challenge a bit uneven, lots of invulnerability on bosses. It is a pretty weak story. I don't think it was a bad story, but it was kind of just like, whatever. This video game could have had no cutscenes and it would have been just as good. So, there's some goofy dialogue lines, but it's like not frequent or goofy enough to really like super jump out at me. So yeah, I think saying it's like a weak story's a good weak story and characters. I think it's like a good way to approach it. There is some charm, I think, to its approach to that stuff, but I don't think it's like the strength of the game at the very least. So I think I can agree with that. I think I'm good on this. How you guys feeling about these? Anything else you guys want to add on to these? Joshua and Mr. T? Untitled Chapter. I'll leave that under weak story and characters, I think. I think we can probably keep it under that. But yeah, I think there's definitely a weaker story. I don't think it matters that much, but I'm happy to put it on this list, so. Not sure how much it tried to have a good story, but it definitely tried to have a story, that's for sure. So. Alright, let me go ahead and save that. Looks good to you? Got nothing? They baited a sequel? I guess. I mean, it kind of ended. You got the lady was there, the guy was there, they're both alive. Mr. Angel Man flew off into the sunset. Something like that. That all seems pretty reasonable. Alright. We're here. Got a little bit of reorganizing we gotta do. It's okay though. Make it quick. Hopefully. The good. Right there. We got bad properties. Go into invulnerability. Bosses. We can probably shorten it to just that. It'll be okay. And then shift this over. 3.5. 4 stars. Where are you feeling, Alex? 4? Let's see. Where am I feeling? I know I'm at least 4. I know I'm there at least. Alex, he's at 3.5 maybe, so you're thinking maybe closer down here, like happy to very happy. Leaning more on 4. Yeah, I think I'm leaning more on 4. I think part of me is leaning towards here, but I think realistically probably what happened is there were times that I felt like a 5-star, but there were also times that I felt like a 3-star, but ultimately like the experience overall felt like a 4-star. So like I feel like there were times that I kind of could have gone either way, and like I could see the argument going to a 4.5 on this or a 3.5. But I think a 4 is just like a really good solid middle point for that. Right there. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. I think 4 is pretty good. I think it's the highest rated game we've had so far. Rygar, the best game we've ever streamed and reviewed at least. So yeah. Like it's kind of interesting because I would not say the game like stands out as anything like super crazy, but like it's just like a really solid and good video game. And you know, maybe has some impact on God of War. But I just think it's like a really good video game overall. Definitely struggles in some spots, but is really solid. So all right. Well, I think we can go ahead and stamp this then. So let me see if this actually works right this week. So I'm going to eyed me. It actually, I think it reviewed pretty well at the time, Joshua. Like, I think it's just one of those games that kind of just disappeared with, like, the early PS2 era. It's not so much that, like, anyone disliked it at the time. It just was, like, yeah, I think, because I think it reviewed well. I think we're, like, probably within the range of reviews. Let me see here real quick. Rygar. I wonder if there's, like, a Metacritic score for it. Yeah, 83%. Pretty dang close. Play Magazine gave it a 100. Imagine the visual pageantry of Devil May Cry, populated with the characters of Dead or Alive. Okay, I don't think a single character in this game read to me as Dead or Alive, but you know, sure. I did not read his full review. Maybe he's got a point. All right, let's stamp this thing. I need to go away. Where am I? Gone. You need to go away. Where are you? Gone. This game is an American video game. I have the American version. It's a Japanese game, but but yeah. All right, and then where is my stamp? The stamp. The stamp. You ready? 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 We did it. We Rygar. We gave a game a 4 out of 5. Finally.